So, Dr. Kumar, with your permission, I would like to start now.
Yes, please go ahead. Please start.
Okay. Very good morning to all our participants who have joined us this morning and our esteemed speakers for today's session. And we will be deliberating, discussing what are the expectations of the MSME sector to from the budget that we are expecting in February next year. And today we have with us Dr. H.P. Kumar. He's the former CMD of National Small Industries Corporation, NSIC, and also associated with Power to SME as Director External
Okay.
Affairs. We have Mr. Sudhir Jha. He's the Vice President of MSME Development Forum. And we have Mr. Deepak Tiwari. He is the Assistant General Manager from Tele Solutions. So, before we start the discussion around the topic, I would like to take all the participants very quickly through the profile of the speakers, the profile of the organizers, that is Power to SME and the Tele Solutions. Power to SME established in year 2012 by our founder and CEO, Mr. R. Narayan. He came up with a very innovative business model which eliminated the intermediaries from the supply chain of commonly used raw materials from big manufacturers to the MSME manufacturers on demand aggregation model. And thus we were able to provide better pricing to the MSME clients. Mr. Anarayan is also currently the president of Wiki CMSME, which is the MSME arm of Wiki. So we are through his office as a president, we have been working very closely with the government machine. This is the entire Power to SME ecosystem. As I mentioned, Power to SME, it deals in raw material procurement and sourcing business. We have our arm Finance Me, which connects the MSMEs with the empaneled financial institution for fast and seamless processing of working capital loans. Our brand SME Shop is the India's largest B2B portal for MRO and industrial consumable goods. And we also have our NBFC by the name BizFunds, which is into providing very innovative financial solutions for raw material purchase financing. The key product categories we deal in includes steel, polymer, paints, yarn, and there are several more. The major industrial segments that we cater to includes auto components, infrastructure, engineering, plastics, electronics, and many more. These are some of our core competitive advantages that Power to SME offers to its clients. We are the one-stop solution for all your raw material needs, including the raw material commodity to raw material purchase financing. We are an invested company. Some of the most reputed venture funds of the country have invested in us. Inventors Capital, Kalari Capital, Excel Partners, Nandan Nilekani is one of our strategic investors. We are also funded by World Bank through its financial arm, IFC. These are some of the awards and accolades that we have won over the time since our inception, and this is where you can find us. So, with this very brief intro of our question, we have Mr. Deepak Tiwari who will be speaking about Tele later during his address. And now I would like to invite Dr. Kumar to kindly take the discussion forward. Over to you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Zumair. Good morning, everybody, and my greetings to all the participants and the esteemed panelists. In fact, this is an important issue that we are going to deliberate today in our conference, the pre-budget expectations of the MSMEs. Well, we are all aware that MSME sector is a very big, contributor to the national economy in the country. And the country having set a goal of achieving $5 trillion worth of GDP in next 3 to 4 years, I find that MSMEs, can play a very big role, in fact, in fulfilling that target. Now, MSMEs have tremendous, opportunities with regard to the, employment opportunities and also dispersal of the economic activity across the country, and the capacity to scale up if the proper, policies and fiscal incentives are made available to them. we have seen that MSMEs have been growing at a faster rate than the large corporates and big industries. So their potential is much higher, as I think most of you must be aware. Now, every year the budget comes and a lot of announcements are made, incentives are provided, whether they relate to non-taxation measures or taxation measures. So some or the other, help and respite comes to the MSMEs. I am not denying that MSMEs are not getting over a period of last at least 2 decades. I have found that MSMEs have been getting something or the other. But then MSMEs are not able to, exploit their potential or utilize their potential fully in the country because of certain constraints which are still existing. We would like to discuss those constraints and and of course the resultant expectations which come out to tide over those constraints. Now, the overarching issue that we would like to discuss is you know, of course, that is in line with the government policy also of becoming Atmanirbhar. There is a huge imports taking place from various countries, including China, to meet our demand of various products. And these are all trivial kind of products. It's not that they are very sophisticated or very high researched products which cannot be made in the country. These are all consumer oriented products like garments and furniture and toys and these things can easily be made in the country. What is required is basically to provide uh, and help and facilitate and incentivize these MSMEs. When I say MSMEs, I am not talking of existing MSMEs only, which are already existing. I am talking of the new enterprises which should be, established in the country. A large number of them need to be established to create more and more employment opportunities also, because ultimately we are not able to provide jobs to all the people who are coming up after the uh, you know after their qualifications or even dropouts also. So the policies and tax incentives, the fiscal measures, the budget expectations have to cover all these issues, that how do we create more enterprises in the MSME sector. We know that MSMEs are not very small. As per the revised definition, the MSME definition has been revised to 250 crore turnover. So they are reasonably good. I mean, they can employ up to 500,000 people also. So, and start with 1%, 2% proprietorship and partnership, small firm. So there is a huge flexibility available. The possibility of scaling up further, is available to a greater extent. They have the capacity to, with lower per capita investment, they can create employment. These are the advantages. The only issue is that how do we make them globally competitive, so that uh, our people are not dependent on the imported goods with lower pricing. We should be able to produce these goods within the country with competitive pricing, and of course good quality, because quality also matters. A lot of people look at the quality and they are ready to pay higher prices also, but we have to look at both the pricing as well as the quality. So the need is to create more and more new enterprises, to upscale the activities of the existing enterprises, to provide incentives for scaling up the businesses, to provide incentives for more employment oriented business enterprises, to provide them tax incentives, uh, in fact, which can help them in plowing back their profits and they can scale it up further. So these are some of the issues. And of course, the other issue which goes without saying, and I'm sure our guest speakers are going to discuss about that, is the easing of compliances. Now, GST is one issue which, of course, I think Mr. Jha is going to discuss. GST has brought in some, you know, uh, some improvements with regard to the burden of tax on the businesses as well as consumers. But at the same time, people have been complaining a big way about the compliances part and about the provisions, criminal provisions particularly, and the harassment which is taking place, at various levels. I don't know, it is because of the initial problem or maybe the mindset of the people who are at the helm of, implementing the GST provisions in the bureaucracy and the tax regime. So these are some of the issues which need to be tackled. I will not go into details of that, but I will surely mention 3 or 4 areas which need attention of the government, and particularly in the budget, these policy these policy improvements and tax improvements, tax changes should take place. The first and the foremost is GST. Now, in GST, there is a specific problem that if your vendor, if your supplier has not paid the tax, which you don't know, whether he is not paid the tax, because at the time of purchasing, you don't know whether he will pay the tax later or not. At later stage also, even if he has complied and filed the returns, but later on not paid the tax or maybe defaulted, your tax credit is required to be refunded. So how is it justified? I don't know. The buyer has to get the flack for non-payment of the tax by his suppliers, that is the vendors. And second thing is the problems with regard to uh, you know compliances for filing of returns and for tax on for getting registrations in all the states. I mean, these are some of the things which can really be taken care of and improved through the policy measures. Tax rate, of course, I am not coming, because tax rate depends on the revenue targets of the government and how do they perceive with regard to the need for incentivizing which particular products and which not incentivizing the other. So I am not touching about the tax rates. I am only saying about the compliances part and the procedures part, which can surely be improved. The second issue with regard to the taxation, I'm talking of taxation issue, is the income tax rates. Now, income tax rates have been reduced substantially over the last 3 to 4 years and brought down to 25% for for companies in the MSME sector. Uh, we know that a large number of companies have got benefits. The tax rate has been reduced to 25%. But for proprietorship and partnership firms and LLPs, these are also huge numbers, because ultimately in India, I don't know, very small number is corporates, but majority of them are in proprietary concern. Now you have included traders also, and the micro enterprises in any case are not corporates. And when you say 90% of the MSMEs are micro, it means 90% of the MSMEs which are micro have not been benefited by the tax concession of 25%. They still have to pay 30% plus tax. So through the budget, because that is the proper appropriate forum, that taxation rates which were announced for corporates, MSME, that is 25%, should be made applicable for proprietorship, partnership, and limited liability partnerships also. That is another expectation which people have expressed to me. Another thing is capital gains tax. Now, if you make capital gain by selling some property and invest it in the residential property, you are exempted from the tax, capital gain tax. But if you invest it in a business, that capital gain, which is of course more desirable because the business is going to give employment to a large number of many people. But if you sell your house or property or any other land and invest it in a business enterprise, you are not exempted from the capital gain. So this also is an anomaly, I feel, because Section 54 requires amendment that investments of capital gain made in the business enterprises also should be exempted, should be treated in the same way as the investment made in the housing, property. Sometime back, the government had in 2019, I remember the budget had made provision that if you make capital gain investment out of capital gain in startup enterprises, then it is exempted. So that is a welcome move, but then it should be extended to all business enterprises, because ultimately, if you increase the investment in the business enterprises, the country's economy is going to benefit and more employment is going to be created. So that is another measure, tax measure, which I thought let me mention, is it will surely help the MSME sector to grow bigger and create more employment. Now, in non-tax measures also, I would like to say that Mudra loan limit of 10 lakhs rupees was fixed, I think, n number of years back. I remember 7 years back or 8 years. It's only 10 lakhs rupees. Now, in order to improve the flow of credit to the MSME sector and to create more and more new business enterprises, Mudra loan limit should be increased from 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs per borrower, because 10 lakhs rupees of business can create maybe up to 5 or 6 employment opportunities. But if you increase the limit to 25 lakhs, naturally, even micro enterprises can scale up and provide more and more employment opportunities. And for the sake of inducting better technology, this becomes very important. So that is one area which will surely improve the flow of credit to the MSME sector also. PMEGP, Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, which is a wonderful program running for the last more than, I think around 15 years in the country, where the government provides, the government of India provides subsidy to the extent of 15 to 25% capital subsidy for starting a new business enterprise. That also needs to be, substantially scaled up, and the budget provision needs to be increased, and it should be popularized in the country. Most of the people not even aware about Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program. It's a wonderful program. For any new business, you provide subsidy to the extent of 15 to 25%, and that scheme needs to be escalated and enlarged substantially in the country. So there are other provisions also we will keep discussing, because I would like to bring in our panel experts also to give their views. We have, in fact, an expert from the industry who is himself a very successful industrialist and associated with many organizations also, Mr. Sudhir Jha, who is the owner of McChem and Company and also member of the National Governing Council of All India Manufacturers Organization. And then we have, sorry, Mr. Deepak Tiwari, who is the General Manager and Zonal Product Excellence Tally Solution. So both of them are very seasoned and very experienced professionals. We have a large role, in fact, for Tally-like companies to provide technology to the small and medium enterprises, because technology can really help this scaling up and improving the efficiency of operations. So without technology, you can't do everything by hand, whether it is inventory management or debtors management, receivables management, or even simple accounting. So Tally is a well-known name, of course. I think the majority of the MSMEs must be aware about Tally, and maybe a large number of them using also Tally solutions. So we'll bring in Mr. Tiwari, in fact, to let us know as to how Tally is going to further help in GST, issues, and also other technology solutions for running a business enterprise, any area, in fact, that is required. So first of all, I'd like to bring in Mr. Sudhir Jha. As I mentioned, he is associated with a large number of organizations and a very practical and very experienced, business person. And he has been in the leadership role in various business and NGO bodies, including MSME Development Forum, RISE Foundation, All India Manufacturers Organization, All India Confederation of Small and Micro Industries, and Delhi Productivity Council. So, Mr. Jha, you are welcome, in fact, to provide your address and also let us know as to how you perceive from an industry perspective also, and also from an organization's perspective, as to what are, in your views, should be the policy decisions and also taxation measures by the finance minister in the coming budget. Over to you, Mr. Das.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. It's a great pleasure to be amidst this August forum in your gracious presence. And I always feel happy to hear from you and get your blessings, sir. So I am thankful to all the participants here who have really given a little time to hear us and deliberate on this important topic. Sir, basically, we are at a cusp now, as you mentioned, because the normal discussions which used to happen pre-COVID times about the budget, COVID, the advent of COVID last year has really caused much chaos around the world. And it had changed the market dynamics altogether. So with the pandemic and the economic instability, consumers are also demonstrating a significant change in their behavior. So unlike the other budgets, even the budget of this year, early this year in 2021, this 2022 budget is going to be much, much different. The government should look at it with deeper insights, because after this budget, which was presented in 2021, early 2021 for 2122, it was before the second wave of COVID, which has really brought the havoc in our country. And that kind of a situation was not faced last year, although there were lockdowns, business, and all the economic activities got paralyzed for a long time. But then the human losses which has happened in this second wave of COVID in the current year, starting April to June, that is the first quarter, completely consumed everything. When I say everything, it has consumed whatever the entrepreneurs had been with them, the resources, the finance, and the clients, and above all, their hope. So they really came on a situation which needs a lot of attention. It has caused cultural and lifestyle changes, because of which businesses are facing challenges. Sir, so the moot point here is that we all need to think how entrepreneurs respond to this situation with their creativity and innovation, because the normal routine business practices won't survive in this kind of environment anymore. So to respond to the challenges and take advantage of the opportunities, okay, any crisis brings opportunities also. So entrepreneurs need to be more resilient. Sir, my entire point of view today is focused around this only. What we need to do? Entrepreneurs need to be more resilient. Resilience is an important concept in entrepreneurial crisis management, as it aids in understanding how business adapt or resist change. Because this is not the end of all. There might be some other climatic catastrophe, environmental situations, or anything down the line, say. So how do we respond to any kind of change and adapt to it, which comes from this process. The resilience of SMEs also depends on the resilience of their ecosystem. Sir, this is the moot point. So government, while formulating their budget in 2022, should not just map it on a axis XY. That is not the condition to really resolve the present crisis situation. It has to be a holistic view. So the government support or public policy plays a crucial role in creating this ecosystem and encouraging a small business resilience and creating a more inclusive and sustainable growth. So having said this, let us look at it. What has happened and what is the changing face of SMEs? So that would really be the base consideration that what we should expect from the forthcoming budget. See, last year, what we have seen that many MSMEs, we have conducted a lot of surveys, and we have seen that across several segments of MSMEs, MSME are a small players, micro, a small and medium. See, medium or enterprises, they are organized to some extent in a better way because they are also competing with the large sized organizations and they have more capital available with them, larger infrastructure, more manpower. The majority of the MSME segment comprises of the micro units, and micro units, many of them are one-man army. In most of the organizations, we see that if the requirement is of 10 persons, it is being managed only by 3, 4, 5 persons. So inadequacy of knowledge, lack of funds, limited resources and manpower, these are the binding situations. And we have seen that entire lifestyle and consumer behavior changing in this COVID times. So that has forced many MSME units to go for closure. Even the lifestyle changes, behavioral changes, business dynamics changes due to social distancing, lockdowns. So large sized, even medium enterprises, say entertainment industry, hotels, and many other business industries which depends on the floating crowd, it has really come to a standstill situation. So what has happened? Still some units have really grown in this time and many of them have not. So I have now 2 points to present here. Few things to attain this resilience. MSME units as entrepreneurs need to think and relook because everything government can't do. There has to be a collective wisdom and we need to be a part of it most sincerely from our side as well. So our experience of working with MSMEs and based upon many surveys, we have seen that during the trauma of COVID-19, the units who are into the real growth system, who could really understand the crisis and manage themselves well, emerged as winners. Many of them have grown substantially. And they are now in a position to capitalize in the next growth cycle. And all such units are characterized by 5 key positive attributes. being hungry for growth even in crisis, being prepared to develop management capabilities, embracing technology in transactions, relationships, and interactions, protecting key customer accounts, retaining key employees, and SMEs having diversified product portfolios with focused customer segments fared better than the focused ones in general. So this is the situation which we have faced. So what could we expect in future? With respect to the changing face of SME, SME's face is bound to change by 2024. No one can stop it because it has now become a process in itself. As we expect a wave of consolidation sweeping 10 to 20% of the lagging SMEs to extinction in the next 3 to 5 years. So the SMEs who are lagging, either in their attitude or mindset or their tendency, not coping up with the changing behavior, market behavior, so they are on the verge of extinction. While quite closures are imminent and immediate distress sale procedures and value extraction plans may take more time and effort than commensurate returns. We expect new firms to be born faster in the next 3 years than 10 in the past. This is the catch point as well. It will be partly offset by the deaths of the SMEs, especially in the micro enterprise segment. And interestingly, the population of home-based self-employed business persons is expected to grow fast. So in the wake of this changing scenario of the SMEs, in just next 3 years, what is most needed? The investment in infrastructure, construction-led products, and its derived sectors, the growth in B2B business services, consumption of entertainment, retail, healthcare goods and services, media, tertiary food processing zones, apparels, EVs, renewables, electronics, automotive services, and EV analytics, data sciences, and technology-led sectors will witness a massive uplift by 2030. So what is really important? That with the changing face of the SMEs in the wake of changing market dynamics, lifestyle, consumption pattern, and consumer behavior, if these are the areas which are going to go up at a massive scale in the next 10 years, then it requires requisite correction at all ends, including the government plans and policies to form a requisite ecosystem. And that should be a part of the government budget formulation in 2022 for 2022-2023, because that is the starting point. And having faced the pandemic crisis, the lockdown situation, the world over changing pattern and the chaos, and on our own soil, many such disasters in this first and second wave. So all it requires is a focused attention and a requisite correction. So that should be the baseline for the government while formulating budget next year. And this should also be a baseline for the MSME entrepreneurs to realign their enterprise in business. Because things which really have the scope ahead, that only is going to survive and sustain. So having said this, now I would like to refer one point here, that entrepreneurship involves assessing opportunities and coming up with innovative ideas. So how to make the whole ecosystem resilient? This is a very important point. Innovation is viewed as a driver of competitiveness, economic growth, and progress. To overcome the crisis and sustain the business in the long run, businesses need to innovate. But innovation is a complex process. Here also government needs to really address the situation that if the forward business environment is going to be based upon innovation, innovative products, innovative ideas, then the larger organizations and even the middle-sized organizations, they are capable to cope up with this situation. But how do the micro and the small enterprise fit into this shoe? Because they can't do of their own. The main barriers to innovation are limited to lack of adequate financial capital, limited management level skill or qualification, limited technological information, and know-how necessary for innovation. To overcome the current COVID-19 crisis and sustain the business in the long run, entrepreneurial action is required. Business need to innovate and apply creativity to turn challenges into opportunities. Now, resilience is the capacity of an entrepreneur to survive, adapt, and grow during turbulent times. Resilience enables them to navigate during a crisis and get the best out of this situation. Resilience is a multi-dimensional construct. Businesses have now started thinking more strategically about uplifting their digital capabilities as an imperative rather than nice to have. Resilient SMEs are considering including online sales options and including cloud as the preferred choice to provide a secure platform, accessible anywhere, anytime, and remove the dependency on physical data centers. The resilience of SMEs depends primarily on the resilience of the ecosystem, which has a crucial role in the continuity of market activities and growth in the communities. Therefore, government support is very important in encouraging or boosting small businesses' resilience and creating a more inclusive and sustainable growth. So basically, if I say this, the main point here is that those struggling to survive need attention, not favors. Capital, as Dr. Kumar, you rightly mentioned, not subsidy. They need market access, not quotas. They need the capability, not just intent to grow. Finally, they need support and active investment from the government and also the large-sized players, and not just grants and CSR money. Finally, it's the time in this changing SME, changing face of the SMEs all around, that the strong lift the weak, not the weak dragging the strong down, or the strong dragging the weak down. So this is the situation. And in this situation, we see that what the various surveys and reports says. According to the survey, a recent survey, over 82% of businesses have experienced a negative impact. And 70% believe it will take them almost a year to recover demand levels prior to COVID-19. Around 60% of companies surveyed expect more measures and support. The survey adds that three topmost challenges that might hinder small businesses to scale up their businesses are market access, improving the overall productivity, market access, this was 42%. Improving the overall productivity, 37%. And having access to more finance, 34%. So basically, what we are looking at from the government. So to sum it up, I have just shared a perspective with you rather than any data or anything in particular, because we all have to realign in this rethinking process into a new direction and view it holistic, with a holistic approach in overall dimensions. So that is the cusp we are at, which I mentioned in the beginning. And from here, 2022 budget should have a deeper inside details before working the budget to see that how a resilient ecosystem is created to take the MSMEs forward and grab the opportunity with Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives, and also the vacuum created world over due to this pandemic chaos, in which we have an opportunity to take extensive market share of it. So this is a perspective which I shared. I look forward to more interactions and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir ji. Thank you so much. Thank you for those deep words of wisdom from your extensive experience over the last decade, few decades, working closely with the industry body, industry association, governments, state governments. So thank you for all those suggestions and perspective. Now I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Deepak Tiwari from Telesolutions. Deepak, I would like you to cover what are the technological and digital incentives that the industry is keen to see in the forthcoming budget, and what you think Tele could play a role in upholding, hand-holding the MSME sector towards these incentives and make the best out of them. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can someone confirm, is my screen visible right now?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, as rightly said by both are the panelists, that these are the expectation and all, and there will be vital role of the technology also. So I would be sticking myself to that context only, that how technology means how the Tally Prime, our latest release 2.0, will help you in fulfilling the compliance. As rightly suggested that there should be some relaxation at compliance side also, but by the time it comes, we have to fulfill all the existing rules and regulations and all the compliance which is currently implemented to the businesses. So it is a very short presentation in which I'll be showcasing some of the features which will help you in fulfilling the compliance in the connected and complete manner. So let's start. So in this short presentation, we will see 3 points. First thing is that how e-way bill compliance can be done through our product. And second thing is how the Tally Prime gives you the visibility of the reports at a personalized manner. And the third, but last but not least, is the trip. So you can access your reports through the browser, even if you are not having the Tally at your system at that time. So we'll see these 3 points, and we'll see how we can take out the help from these features. So first, we'll cover that the powerful connected services, in which we are going to showcase you the e-way bill capability in our product. So we are saying that it's a complete, connected, and compliant solution. Why these 3 terms have been taken here? First one is the connected, means we are giving you the complete integrated solution within our product so that a business can generate, cancel, extend, or modify the e-way bill within the product. Yes, definitely. There will be no requirement to go to the portal for such operations related to the e-way bill. That all operations can be done within the product. So we'll see how it can be done. So before generating the e-way bill from Tally Prime, you need to create one login on the portal. Definitely, there are 2 logins. First one is your portal login, which is a separate thing. Another thing is the API user. Once you log into the e-way bill portal, at the left-hand side, you get multiple options, and there is one option called API user. So you have to create API user there to use our GSP services for generating e-way bills. As I said, if you are using the Tally Prime release 2.0, you need not to switch between Tally and NIC portal, because when we interact with the customer, we get multiple scenarios, like we have very less number of e-way bills, and that's why we are going to the NIC portal and generating the e-way bill from there. Or we don't know, and sometimes it is a knowledge gap. The huge thing which got to with our customer got to know that there is a knowledge gap also. So it is a very short presentation. I will not explain much these things, which will give you an idea that what are the things can be done through a product. And definitely, if you want a detailed one, we can connect one-to-one. You can drop your details in the chat box or the organizer. We'll get back to you. Okay, so that's a small video we have created, that how e-way bill can be generated within the product. So let's say I'm recording one invoice. So I selected the party detail, and after that I entered the stock item. The threshold for generating e-invoice is 50,000 for interstate movement. So as the invoice value is 50,000, which is crossing the threshold limit, here I am filling the e-way bill details related to this transporter name and the vehicle number and all. These are the mandatory fields. These are required by the portal, and these fields we are filling in the product only. So once you are completed, the Tally will ask you to submit and generate the e-way bill. You will press yes. And after that, you need to give the login credential. These login credentials are not your portal login credential. As I said, there are 2 login credentials. One is for portal login and another one is for API login. So you need to enter the API login credential here. Okay, once it is done, the validation is successful. Tally will give you the invoice, and along with that, you will get the e-way bill print. As this process is being online, so sometimes it takes time. Okay, you get the message that e-way bill generated successfully. And now here you can take the preview of your invoice. So on the first page, you will get the invoice. Okay, and on the second page, once you will scroll down, you will get the detailed e-way bill printout. So this is the detailed e-way bill printout on the second page. okay, which will consist the doc number, the QR code, which can be scanned and verified, e-way bill number generated by what kind of supply you are having, particular buyer and consignee detail, dispatch from and ship to detail, goods detail. And at the bottom, you will get the transporter detail if it is mentioned while creating the e-way bill. Okay, so this is the bottom area in which you can see the tax details, transporter detail, and the vehicle detail. So this is the detailed e-way bill which we are providing within the product. And definitely, if you want to cross-check this e-way bill is valid or not, so you can go to the portal, you can enter the particular e-way bill number mentioned on the invoice, and you can check it on portal also. Along with that, we can cancel this e-way bill. We can extend the validity because each and every e-way bill has the validity depending on the kilometer of the transportation, and on that basis, in some circumstances or in exigency, we can extend the validity also. That can be done within the product. And if you want to change the transporter detail, that also can be done within the product. So all the operations related to the e-way bill can be done within the product. You need not to go to the portal and generate there, because it will be a deduplication kind of thing. Once you will record the invoice in your software, again, you will enter the details on the portal, and where the manual intervention is higher, that the accuracy will go down. Okay, there can be typo error, manual error, and different kind of thing can be done. Can occur. So to avoid all these things, it is always preferred that you should use a particular integrated solution which can give you the flexibility or the functionality to generate all these things within the product. And not only this, if you are generating the e-way bill, definitely reporting is a crucial thing. Whenever we are using any ERP and any kind of software, report is very, very crucial part. So in Tally Prime, we gives you a detailed report, okay, which covers and which displays the entire life cycle of an e-way bill. Like e-way bill got generated, whether it was along with part A or part B, whether it was rejected or not, it was rejected manually or by the portal. Okay, is it cancelled or the extension has been done? So all kind of life cycle can be managed and can be seen within a single screen, which gives you an idea that now what are the transactions which are still pending to be generated. Okay, so this gives you an entire thing, and this would be very helpful in reconciling the status of your e-way bill and invoice. So let's say in your business, there is a very less number of e-bills to be generated, and you are doing it through portal directly on the portal. But now the problem is at the end of the financial or at the end of the month, you want to see the summary of all these transactions for which you have generated the e-way bill. Definitely, you have to go on the portal. You will export these e-way bill details in an Excel format or anything else, any other format, and then you will reconcile it with the Tally data. Okay, again, it will consume your time and effort. Okay, and what could be better than this, that you get all these functionality within the product? You need not to do the reconciliation as a separate activity. Okay, it will be done simultaneously. Once you will generate the e-way bill, it will be updated in this report. Okay, so that's another thing. Now, when we use any integrated solution and any problem occurs, let's say if you are trying to generate the e-way bill and Tally is giving you some kind of error that particular services is not available. So the first thing which clicks in the user's mind that there would be some problem from Tally end. Okay, it's a normal tendency that there would be some problem in the software, but sometimes it happens because as I told you that it is happening because we have integrated our product with the portal, and there are two services are running simultaneously to make this successful. First, the services are running at Tally side, and other services are running at portal side. Okay, and if any one of service got disrupted or under maintenance, the particular integration will not work. Okay, to check that, because definitely if you'll approach to us, we will definitely, it's a normal thing that the software company will say, sir, it's not our fault, it's a portal fault. But how a user can decide, how user can check whether it is Tally's problem or portal's problem? So for that, we have given you one portal, one link within the product on which you can click. Thus the option is here, status of online access services. Once you will press enter here, it will redirect you to a web page where you can see all the status of services which are running. So let me zoom it. So this is the status of the services. These 4 services are from Tally side, and these 1 or 2 services from third-party services, which is NIC services. So if any of one services, any of the services is disrupted or under maintenance, definitely the integration will not work. But you will get an idea whether the problem is from Tally side or the portal side. Okay, if it is from the Tally side, you have an option in Tally. You can export the JSON file and upload it to portal. Okay, your work will not stop. Your e-waybill generation will not stop. But if the problem is portal side, then no software can give you the functionality of generating e-waybill, because the problem is portal side. Problem is from portal side. So that's the thing by which user can validate that whether the problem is from Tally side or the portal side. And the maintenance is a very general thing. If you see that even the IRCTC portal servers goes down, okay, regularly for half an hour for the maintenance thing. Okay, so maintenance is not a big deal, but definitely it is not very frequently. It occurs once in a month. Okay. Okay. Another thing which we have given as a functionality or the feature in the product, that is validating or verifying the GST and HSN code. Okay, and why it is important? As Sir was saying, that the major problem is that if my buyer is not paying the tax, and definitely then I would be suffering. Okay, if buyer not paying the tax. So if my supplier is not paying the tax, then buyer is going to suffer, because he had already paid the tax to the supplier. And again, if not getting the ITC, it would be there would be a cash crunch or the cash flow crunch, and the cash can be blocked there, because ITC was supposed to be availed to reduce the liability by the buyer. Okay, fine. So just to check, just to have the idea that whether the particular party to whom I am dealing with, okay, is it the GSTN of that particular supplier is valid or not? Whatever GSTN is valid, or whatever GSTN I am entering, because sometimes it is typo error. Typo error is very common. Like if there is a 0, okay, then it is not. It is always very confusing that whether it is 0 or O, it is a I or 1. So sometimes it is typo error, and sometimes what happens that we enter a name, the name of the party, and we enter the GSTN number. We want to ensure that whether the particular GSTN number is valid, and is it the same name which is which I'm mentioning here. Okay, so just to check all these things, and why it is important, because if I am mentioning a wrong GSTN number, then whatever the tax I'll be paying, whatever the transaction I'll be posting in my GSTR1, that would not reflect in the GSTR2 of the buyer. Okay, and definitely it will further lead to the disallowance of the ITC. Okay, because if there is no record of ITC in the GSTR2A, then it will not be considered as a valid ITC for the buyer. So GSTN mentioning a valid GSTN is very crucial. Okay, because each and everything is going to the portal, and it can be easily tracked. Okay, so we have given the functionality of verifying the GSTN number. And in the same fashion, a user can verify the HSN number of also harmonized system of nomenclature that is used for giving a unique identity of a particular commodity or the goods or SKU. So let's see how it can be done. So let's say I want to create, I'm just creating a master of party. And while creating the master of that particular party, I'm entering the GSTN number. And at the time of master creation, I can verify it whether it is correct or not. Okay, so let's see how it can be done. So let's say I have created one party master, that is TCI India. And I have entered one GSTN number here, which you can see there is a GSTN number entered. And at the right hand side, there is one option, get GSTN and union detail. Press yes. It will validate that whether the details are mentioned in your books. This black font is for books detail, means whatever the master and details I filled in my Tally data. And this blue font is coming from the portal. So you can cross check the name, whether the name is correct or not, whether the address is correct or not, whether the registration type, what is the registration type, and the status of GSTN number, whether it's active or not. Because if someone is not filing a return for 2-3 return period, then definitely there would be some impact would be on e-way bill or return filing things. So if you are dealing with a party who have not filled their GST returns for 2 or 3 return period, then definitely there would be some problem from e-way bill generation also, or return filing thing also, that it will impact you badly actually. So you can check the status of his GSTN status. Along with that, you can check the name and address, which is a more crucial thing. It is a trade and legal name which is mentioned on the portal, and that is as per your tally data, which you can cross check here. And that can be done while creating the master of that particular party. Sorry, one second, I think screen sharing it got stopped. Is my screen visible now? Can someone confirm? Because in between, I just
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
In the same fashion, we can validate the HSN number also. Why the HSN is very important? Because we have seen multiple practices in the market. Like let's say I am a buyer and I'm a trader actually. I buy the product from a supplier and I sell it to the consumer. And but my supplier is mentioning 8-digit HSN code. Okay, and because 8, 4, and 6, it depends upon the turnover of the company. That whether we need to mention the 4-digit HSN, 6-digit HSN, or 8-digit HSN. It depends on the nature of transaction or the turnover of that particular company. So let's say my supplier is mentioning 8-digit HSN code on the invoice, and for my business it is only 4-digit. And I did not consult it with anyone because the HSN was on the invoice. So what I did, I truncated the HSN code from 8-digit to 4-digit, and I mentioned that particular 4-digit HSN code in my data. Now this practice works sometime, not every time. Okay, sometime it will work, sometime it will not work, because there is a limited set of HSN code which have been issued by the authorities. The combination of 4-digit, in the combination of 4-digit, 6-digit, and 8-digit. Okay, so sometime it works. Like there was a HSN code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You truncated that 8-digit HSN code to 4-digit 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe there might be some possibility that 1, 2, 3, 4 is correct, but not every time. Okay, so this practice is not correct actually. Okay, you have to just go through the particular Excel file which have been given by the authorities of the department, and then you have to put that particular HSN in your data. And now you want to cross check that whether the HSN you are entering into the particular master on the stock item, whether this is correct or not. Okay, so for that also, as we have given the functionality in GSTN number, verifying the GSTN detail and status. In the same fashion, we have given this functionality, this feature for validating the HSN also. So let's see how it can be done within the product. So let's say I've created one stock item. And in which in this stock item, I'm mentioning the GST detail for it. So it's description, HSN code 100110. And from here, I can click on get GST, again, get HSN SSC detail, press yes, enter the credential. Again, this credential is not the portal login, it is of your API login. Okay. Enter the password, because it is a demo thing, so we are entering it again and again. Yes, so here you can see there is one validation happened, because it was at the time of e-way bill. Sorry, it was at the time of stock item creation. So at the time of stock item creation, we have entered 100110, and we clicked on get HSN detail. On the next screen, you can see it is giving a message successful one. It means the HSN you have entered is correct. It is matching with the data available at the portal side. And this particular terminology which you have used, that is from your Tally data, and this description is coming from the portal. So you can cross check whether the stock item name and the HSN which you are entering, is it matching with the data available at the portal or not. So by doing all these two things, you can ensure the authenticity of the GST return. Because anyway, when you send your data to your accountant or the chartered accountant for return filing purpose, or if you are doing it in-house, that is the very crucial thing. Okay, to validate the GSTN number, whatever GSTN you are entering, and the HSN number which you are entering. Okay, because if the HSN if the particular HSN which you are buying, under which HSN you are buying and you are selling, it is different or it is wrongly entered, there would be some penalty from the government. Okay, I don't know the particular amount, but I have heard and gone through multiple discussion. There would be some issues with that. So these two things are very crucial. Okay, you need to ensure that these two things are very correct in your data. Second thing, abhi jo humne dekha, that was for one by one. It means we validated one GSTN number, we validated one HSN number. Along with that, you can do it in bulk also. So let's say you have you have a list of buyers and suppliers. Okay, and let's say there are 100 number of buyers and suppliers. You can validate 100 GSTN in one go. With one click, you can validate all 100 GSTN. Okay, in the same fashion, you can validate bulk HSN also. So let's say there is an n number of SKUs, let's say 100 or 150 stock items are there, line items are there in which you are dealing, and you want to validate the HSN of all the stock items in one go, that can be also done. So because we have a very limited time, that's why I have not demonstrated in the presentation. Okay, fine. Now we come to the second point, which is the report save. So when we connect with the business owners, especially the business owners, we see that there is one constraint, there is one friction in the market, which basically stops the business owner using the ERP product. Definitely, business owners are not supposed to do the data entry. They are more interested in the reporting part. Okay, and the problem which we got to know in our various discussion with the business owners, that we need to memorize all the navigations. Okay, for what? Just to they need to memorize the location of that particular option. Let's say I want to see all my receivables. Okay, the particular money I want to receive from the market. For that, I need to memorize that from where I can find it. So first I need to remember, I need to press this, I need to go into the display, then accounts report, then outstanding, and then receivable. So by which I can memorize 1, 2, or I think 10 reports, but not each and every report can be on tip of the tongue. Okay, so for which for that we have given a particular feature of GoTo, and that can be explained as a Google of Tally. Okay, so whatever report you want to access, you need to press just that button, or the shortcut key for that report is Alt-G. You can press Alt-G from your keyboard, and you will get the list of reports on that particular screen, and that would be a scroll that from that particular screen you can scroll down. Let me show you that. So let's say there's a Tally screen, and on this screen I pressed Alt-G, and once I press the Alt-G, I get the particular list of all the reports which is available in the Tally. So you need not to memorize the navigation. Okay, and now whatever report you want to access, you need to just type the initials of that report. Let's say I want to see the bills receivable. So I'll type bill receivable, and the particular list will be shorted. You will get all the reports which are related to the receivables, and you can press enter and access that report. So first bottleneck, and the big bottleneck, was that business owner was supposed to memorize all the navigations of the report. So now it's had been removed. Okay, so with the single click, you have the access of all the reports which is available in the Tally, right? Okay, another one is the save view. So let's say you are viewing a particular report, but that default view of that report is not fulfilling your fulfilling the things. Let's say I want to see the cash report, for which I opened the cash ledger, but in that particular cash ledger, I want to see those payments which are above 10,000 because it's not allowed by the rules. Okay, I cannot make the cash payment above 10,000. So maybe it was intentionally or unintentionally. There might be some possibilities that I have some transactions related to the cash payment where the transaction amount is more than 10,000. So that is the basic thing. And once you send the data to the chartered accountants for the balance sheet finalization, and in their audit process they check it. Okay, that is the basic checklist. That is the common line item when the audit takes place. Okay, so for that thing we have given one option called Save View. What Save View does? Save View gives you functionality, or it can be considered as a good feature for those who are using Tally. They are not the power user of Tally. They use it very occasionally and just for the reporting purpose. So what you can do, you can do the modification in the report, like you add the filter to that, or you can add the columns. Okay, whatever modification you are doing in the Tally, because the default view of the report is not fulfilling your intention, or it's not fulfilling your requirement. So for that you can do the modification in the report. Let's assume that I want to see, I opened the cash ledger, and in the cash ledger there are multiple transactions. Let's say there are 100 transactions, but out of 100 only 20 transactions are above 10,000. Okay, maybe there might be some typo error or the data entry mistake. And let's say it was 1,000, but while doing the data entry it was entered as 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so I want to figure it out, that what are all the transactions which is related to the cash payment and above 10,000. Okay, so for that what I did, I entered, I opened the cash voucher. Under the cash voucher, I applied the filter of voucher having the value more than 10,000, and I press enter, and I got all these 6 transactions where cash amount is more than 10,000. And now I can save this view. So there's one dialog box, you can see that's a save view. By clicking on the save view, that will give the function, that will give you the flexibility of saving that particular report with your personalized name. You can give this view as a personalized name, like I did, cash pay above 10,000. So that's a personalized name. I am typing it. So whatever name suits me, whatever name I can, which is easy to recall. Whenever I want to see the particular report, it should be easy to recall. I can enter that particular name and I can save this. In future, if I want to see this report again, let's say after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I want to see this report again, then I need not to go and do all those modification. I need not to apply the filter again. I need to add the column again. No, I don't need to do all these things. What I'll do, I'll again go to the go-to, as I said, or press Alt-G. Under Alt-G, you will get the list of all views which you have saved. So you can see it is coming in the list, cash pay above 10,000. Once you will press enter, you will get the same report. Okay, so with the save view, which will definitely help to those who are interested in reports. As I said, business owners are interested in reports more than doing the data entry and seeing the transaction level detail. No, they are more into the reports. So that this 2 things will help them. Okay, and on top of that, you need not to memorize the navigation of that report. That is the beauty of that particular solution. Now, the last but not least, we are coming to the browser access, report access through browser. In our terminology, we say TRIB, Tally reports in browser. So let's say today I am traveling and I'm not able to carry my laptop. Okay, definitely there is one gadget which is always available with us, that is mobile. Okay, Android mobile or smartphone. Okay, that is always available with us. And every Android phone has a browser, okay, which helps us in exploring the data online and all. So in Tally Prime 2.0, being a business owner, we get a functionality which we get a feature that we can access the reports even if the data is not available with us. I'm again saying we can access the reports, we cannot do the data entry. Okay, and that's why this restriction makes this feature more secure, that no one can play with your data. No one can change the modification. No one can do the modification in data. Whosoever is having the access of this particular feature can only see the reports. Okay, so let's say you want to have some consultation with a chartered accountant, but you are not able to give the access of your Tally's data chartered account. What you can do, you can mention their email ID in the Tally product, which will facilitate your chartered accountant to access your reports, your Tally data report, and on the basis of the reports you can take the consultation from. Or let's say you are traveling and you get a call from a customer for a deal. Okay, he is your regular customer, but you are more interested in you are interested in having a talk on the outstanding also, but you don't have the records because you're traveling, you don't have laptop, you don't have Tally data. What you will do? You will put the customer's call on hold, you will call to the accountant and you will ask him that what are the outstanding of the particular, send me the snapshot, send me the Excel file, and all that. That's a basic practice. But if you are using the TRIB feature, Tally reports in browser, your accountant or the person who are operating Tally, he will mention your mail ID in that in Tally data. And the moment you will enter your Tally, your mail ID in the Tally data, you will have the access of your entire reports on a mobile. And nothing can be more handy than that. Okay, so let's see how it can be done. So there's a image, a screenshot of my desktop, in which I am showing you that how this particular TRIB report will help you in accessing the reports. So I entered all these things. The configuration part have already been already being done. So ho chuka hai, that has been done. So now once I log into the Tally website, I'll get this screen. And once I get this screen, I can click on any of the reports. So let's say I want to see the ledger outstanding of a party. So I can write the initials on the search here box. So let's say I typed the bill receivables. Okay, so I entered the bill receivable for Agam Enterprises. So I can see all these bills detail which are still pending. So the total outstanding comes 77,830 rupees 40 paisa. So that's the total outstanding of Agam Enterprises. Now that is on my screen. I want to share it with my customer. I want to share it with my Agam Enterprises. So what I can do, there is a one download icon here. You can click here, and that will give the flexibility of downloading this particular report in either on Excel or on PDF. There are two formats available. You can download it and you can share it through the WhatsApp. So that's how you can access your reports, even if you're not having that your laptop and Tally and your data, accounting and financial data. Okay, so that's how you can have, and that can and there is no restriction for number of email IDs. You can add a good number of email IDs, like your own email IDs, your chartered accountant's email ID, or let's say there is one person who is from collection department, so you can give them access to the outstanding. So the particular user can have the restricted access also. So the stock detail can be shared with the inventory department, and the purchase and the stock detail can be shared with the procurement department, or this sales detail can be shared with the salesperson, and the outstanding detail can be shared with the salesperson. So that if he is going into the market for collecting the orders, so while discussing with the future orders, he can discuss the outstanding also at the same time. Okay, and that would be handy. So that's how the Tally Prime 2.0, the latest release 2.0, can help you in this way. First was the e-way bill. Second one was the GST and HSN validation, and third one was the Tally reports in browser. Okay, so to opt for Tally Prime release 2.0, what all things are required? First one, that your annual subscription should be valid. And if you do not have an active subscription of annual subscription of Tally software, you need to renew it. And if you are having a valid subscription, an active subscription, you need not to pay a single penny to opt Tally Prime release 2.0. It would be free of cost for you. And definitely, if you are not the existing customer of Tally product, you can get a trial of 7 days, and you can check out all these things which we have demonstrated. If you have any question, you can drop into the Q&A box or the chat box, and that's it from my side.
Thank you, Deepak, for this detailed product presentation. And now it's time for taking some questions. So I would request Sudhamni if she has any questions for our speakers. Sudhamni, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will go ahead with the first question, which is, are we not complicating the provision of HSN in relation to turnover of the unit? If we say 8-digit HSN is important, let everybody quote 8-digit code, else 4 digits could satisfy the same.
Deepak, this question I direct to you. It's being submitted by one of our participants in the chat.
Okay. So I think it is a kind of facility being provided to the small taxpayer, because you will see the 4-digit, 6-digit, and 8-digit. That depends on the basis of the turnover. So let's say I'm a pharmacy. I have a pharma shop. Okay, medicine shop. So there would be n number of medicines, and according to my turnover, if I will start mentioning the HSN codes at the 8-digit level, then it would be very tedious task to maintain all the HSN codes, because there would be, if I have 10 SKUs, then all 10 SKUs will have a different things. So just to give in facts, the ease, that's why the government is saying if you have a less number of turnover, then you need not to go deep down at the 8 digits level. You can mention the header of that particular SKU. Let's say the 4-digit is the header of that particular chapter. So the header would be sufficient for us. But if you are importing, exporting, even if your turnover is below the 8-digit threshold, but your business is kind of import and export, then you have to mention the 8-digit code. So it depends on the nature of transaction and the turnover, and it's all about the providing the ease to the user.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Jha, the next question goes to you. Mr. Govind is asking, if the farmers are being given MSP, then why not the similar support to micro enterprises? One produces agri output while the MSE produces goods for general consumption.
Sudhir ji. Probably he's away. So, Sudhamni, is there any question relating to GST or tech front, so that we can
Yes.
direct it to Deepak again?
There is a question from Mr. Vijay Rastogi. He says, for MSMEs, the government should ease compliances in GST. GSTR2 reconciliation is a major issue. So what can be done to ease compliances here?
Deepak, this one is for you.
Okay. Is it regarding the GSTR reconciliation? Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Definitely, I cannot talk much about from the compliance side that whether there would be any relaxation or not. But yes, how technology can help you, that I can explain. So if you are using Tally Prime 2.0, in that you can do the reconciliation by importing the JSON file, which can be easily downloaded from the portal. You can download the GSTR2A or your ITC related files and import into the Tally data. That will give you the status that what are the invoices are matching, which is means in your data and as well as in your ITC records on the portal. So by doing this activity, you can reconcile the things. The another update I would like to share that in next financial year, we are going to have a new release which can have the integrated solutions like we have had this for the e-way bill, which we have seen in this presentation. We will have such kind of integrated solution for GST reconciliation. So in that thing, you need not to import the particular file also. That can be done online and integrated way. So on the technology front, I can only suggest you the things which is available on the product. So definitely the GST reconciliation is there. You can do that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tiwari. And with that answer, I would like to conclude today's session. Hearty thank you to our panelists and speakers today. We had a very insightful session, and you've given us much to think about of what to expect from the upcoming budget for the MSMEs. A big thank you to our attendees today as well, to all our participants. I have posted some links in the chat box for you. So just, we would like to get to know you better. We would like to know how better we can make our webinars to suit your needs. So please click on the links and give us some feedback on how we can tailor these webinars for you. With that, I would like to formally conclude today's session. Thank you very much and see you next week.